accomplishing something. And so very quickly, before we get on our work plan, do you want to discuss last year's work plan discussion at the City Council last night, how we gave the annual review and
Right. So just to preface your discussion, all of you got a copy. I attached it to the agenda, and you also have a hard copy of what I wrote for the Neighborhood Services and Education Committee back in May. Originally, I was going to make this report in April, but I was bumped to May. What it covers is all the activities from August of 2014 to now. It doesn't actually include August because we had pretty much 50% new commissioners, and so you all were learning how to do the Brown Act and everything else. So, but in effect, it covers all of you there. Larry was there, and Commissioner Sandoval was there last night, and unfortunately, I didn't get onto the agenda, which was 5.1, until about 9:45. It's budget time. So anyway, long and short of it is, this is a summary of what I pulled out of all the minutes and everything else. It passed out of NAC with really no comments, a couple of questions. Last night, it went to, I gave the report to the mayor and council, and I had 4 comments. Well, first, the vice mayor said, great job, you guys are doing terrific, really appreciate all your hard work. The second comment came from Councilmember Perales. What he said was, the commission did a really great job in working in partnership with the San Jose Police Department on the drone UAS. And he said, I think that the model you developed will work just as well with potential outreach on the body-worn cameras. I didn't react to that. It's not my job to react to that. I do want to say, though, that that's going to go on your work plan, and simply because the chief of police has talked to the chair, and it's become known, among other administration, that the pilot for body-worn cameras will occur starting in August, September. And at this point, the chief is asking you to consider that he come in November to do an overview of the whole process. You don't meet in December, although last year you did. You had a special meeting on drones. So you've been approached by PD as far as public safety to have you consider adding that to your work plan. So I'm just mentioning that as you go into this discussion. The second comment was from Councilmember Jones, who used to be part of this commission. What he said was, great job the commission is doing, however, he would like to see more communication between the commission and the council. And that was I mentioned that was one of the observations of the board's and commission discussion between mayor and council, that there really was no avenue that's going forward as a rule for all boards and commissions to talk about what they're doing. I do want to say that, and I mentioned this in my response, was that as part of the documents that were attached to the budget discussion yesterday, your letter was part of those documents. There were only 3 commissions that made comments, and I staffed 2 of them. One was Neighborhoods Commission. The second on budget items was Human Services Commission on 2 separate items, one having to deal with funding of San Jose PD on human trafficking position, which is a big deal. And it's really in light of Super Bowl 2016, which is only half a year away almost. It's become a huge discussion item. This commission doesn't have any role in that, but the other commission does. The third commission was the Youth Commission. Those are the only commissions that made any communication to the council on the budget. So that's another item, communication, which has been part of your due diligence over the years, both in the pilot phase and now. The final comment came from the mayor, who said, Ernest, go back to the commission and let them know that part of what we think ought to happen is that there is a reality that boards and commissions do not do an effective job communicating with the mayor and council about what they're doing. And he thought that this commission ought to take a lead in developing best practices on how to communicate with the mayor and the council. Good, go ahead.
Thank you. To that point, if body cameras are coming to the commission on our work plan,
It's up to you to decide if that, I mean, that's.
I understand that.
Yeah.
but if it happens, I would like to see, or I would highly recommend that the agency that's bringing that to the commission 15 days, hopefully 30 days before it's heard here, that we have a written summary of exactly where it stands, what's going on, and what they're suggesting, so that we can digest this, understand it, think about it, and give it some constructive, thoughtful consideration, as opposed to being on a book tour.
Well, I can give you, and I did ask last week, and I just got the link, I think, Monday or so. There is a memorandum that is out explaining where body cameras stand now, which is what the independent police auditor reacted to. I'll send you the link, and it'll give you up to date in preparation for several months from now, where things stand now. So I do have that link, and I haven't actually read the report yet, but it's there. So you'll get that, and I agree. And as you notice, and I don't know how to fix this, but, and I'm guilty of it myself. Most of your presentations come to you the day of. Pretty much all of them do. I mean, even today I didn't receive anything, although I set this up 3 weeks ago. Pretty much all of them I ask, do you have a presentation? And they'll say, well, I don't even know if they need PowerPoint to go on with the day of. So there doesn't seem to be a practice that gives everybody the opportunity to review things before you get there. But I'll make it a point that should happen in this case then.
Okay, so Joe, you want to say?
Yeah, so I appreciate the feedback from the council. That is helpful to hear kind of how they're thinking about things. I think part of how we communicate back to the council, is what we were just talking about at the letter about, fireworks. So I think that is a good opportune conversation to have, is how do you have those conversations if the process discourages the conversation. The second piece, and kind of playing up, the whole thing about body cameras, is I really do not want to repeat it tonight, is that we had a discussion that obviously thought had gone into, to which there was nothing that was provided beforehand. There was no structure to it, no ability to go through and really help us be effective. And so, we did have good conversation, and it was listed as an action item, but there really was no means to really accomplish that. And so, if it's important enough for them to come in and have us be involved, and it's important enough for them to put thought into it, some structure into it, to help us with that conversation and come forward out with recommendations and useful product. And that would be at least 15 days. If they don't have a written thing to get posted on the web and in our hands, then we disinvite them.
Well, and to that point, I do have to say that the commission has already made an example of that by asking, for instance, PD to provide the points that they wanted to have in a policy, and for the commission to see that, before, because that led all your discussions. It was a one-pager that outlined what policy they were thinking about. So that's one of the few times that, because the commission specifically asked for them. So you've set a precedent
We asked for the straw man to
Right.
shoot at, and we got it. And with the vendor thing for the fruit carts, they kept changing mind for what it was. We said we wouldn't do it. So
Yeah, and just to finish that comment, so anyway, the report from the commission was accepted last night by council. Everybody seems to be pleased. I thought I'd bring these items up to your attention because as you develop your work plan for next year, realize that if they went through the thought effort to tell the commission that this is what they thought ought to be part of what you're doing, you really should consider it. Now, I do want to say that it was accepted unanimously, so there was nobody that was speaking against it. Unlike when the commission was made permanent, there were 3 council members that didn't vote in favor of it. Although before that, the votes were unanimous to extend the pilots and do everything else. So the commission appears to be in very good standing. It looks like they want more product from you.
So I'm curious, because I thought we were getting more product than we've ever given before, or that other, because we've written a memo on the policy for bylaws, that 0-4 thing. We gave a letter on the
well, that doesn't have anything
drones.
to do. Yeah,
We've given a letter on the budget.
No, I understand that.
Are they getting through, or are they getting lost in the system? I mean,
No, it's not that they're getting lost in the system.
I mean, the drone thing is not.
Let me give you my opinion. My opinion is you've got 5 new council members and a new mayor, and all of them. And I'm seeing this at all the budget discussions. The reason the meetings are lasting so long is because everybody is in a learning curve. All of these folks are very eager to be educated and they don't know the commission. But they were just elected less than 6 months ago. They were sworn in. So this is nothing a reflection on you. It's all great. But that's all in the past. Now they see your work product. And they're saying, well, add this to it then.
So that was one of our, I'll get to everybody in a moment, but I was going to ask, we talked about having a report out from this thing to the budget, to the community. I mean, I report to District 6 as a very informal, this is what I remember, but it's not formal minutes of the thing. I was hoping that you guys are doing it out too, but should we give a formal letter to the council?
It's interesting you mention that.
This is what we acted on this time.
What Commissioner Jones said specifically was that it might be helpful in some format to have a chair's report come to the council. A chair's report. As an idea, summarizing what you're doing. Not staff, but really a communication from the commission. And that was very specific. Or some other type of commission report. I think they're encouraging you to communicate more often, which is, and don't shoot the messenger, I'm just simply telling you that this is.
Should I try to summarize what I've been, I take some notes, but I'd like to have.
So we're going to talk work plan tonight.
Huh?
That's the comment I wish to make, I'd like to be recognized.
Yeah.
Can I be recognized?
Do you want to be, no, so he wants to talk first. We want to get on to the main thing.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay, the
I thought we were working on
comment I wanted to make, and this also has partially a question. I was actually there last night, you just weren't aware of it. And first, Ernest did a great job of presenting our report to them. But the question I had, Ernest, was I had a sense when Councilmember Perales spoke that part of what he was saying was he liked the public outreach that we had done, the meetings that we held. And that is one of the most visible things we did. It actually made it onto news reports and into the newspapers. So the council members are paying attention to it.
Right, and let me just finish that reaction because it's a great impression. He didn't say that, but that's the implication that the commission did such a great public outreach in different parts of the city and on, that that's the model that he wants to see with the body cameras. The reason I didn't mention that was because it's up to you to decide how you want to handle that, whether or not you want to do community outreach or whatever you want to do.
Okay, so that'll be part of our work plan, which we need to get on to, but next, Nick.
Okay, there's a broad thing, yeah, to try to tell, I really want to get this out. There's a broad thing we've been asked, this is not a criticism that I hear coming from City Council or the Mayor's office, that affects anything but. When you look at what we did as a body for the drone issue, which was bubbling up and it was really hot, we took that thing and we didn't just superimpose our own personal belief system on top of it. We created a process around this, and Larry had a heck of a lot to do with it, chairing the whole process. All of us participated, and many of us were at each and every one of those events. That, and when they say that's a model, I'm really pleased to hear that they recognize that. So when we get on to the specific items in the work plan as it relates to body-worn cameras, I think that should be in there. Sure, I'm going to support that. This is a broader topic. Should one of the work items be how we hone our communication, both information coming in as you were describing, and also information as we communicated to City Council and the Mayor's office? Is it just in the form of these letters that we've done, which I think are highly effective and how it's always been done, not done enough by other councils or commissions, but done pretty effectively by us in the last year and a half? What else can we do? And there was one other suggestion about a chair's report, and perhaps there's some personal attendance at certain specific City Council meetings when the delegate of the commission stands up and speaks, not for the 2 minutes as public commentary, but as a member of the body. Maybe it's a chair, maybe it's a delegate. I don't want to solve the issue here. I think this should be a work plan item to describe how we're going to hone the process, not just as it relates to something like drones leading to body-worn cameras, but also the in and outs of what happens with commissions overall. And so I heard pretty clearly when Mr. Guzman says that the mayor wants to see that. I'm with him. I think that we should take that on as a work plan item. How commissions in general, us specifically as a model for, but commissions in general, bring the information in and then digest it and communicate with City Council and Mayor's office.
Okay, let's move forward very quickly, Gary.
Yes, I've been an advocate since I've been on this commission that we document what we do so that we have a record. The drone report was a classic example. Also, during that process, we developed a model. We have a process. We also had to capture the lessons learned.
Lessons learned, yes.
We've invented that. We do not need to invent it again. So the idea was, I think David will back me up on this, that when we get finished with that last report, that we could use that as a template for future products. And I think we can, so we have that in place. So I think we can move on. I don't think we have to belabor the point. We know what we need to get. I think your point about getting the material beforehand, all this stuff we've encountered before, we know this. So.
That simple process was documented. I think I shared it with several of you. Ernest has a copy. All we have to do is just put on the work plan, look at it.
I documented the lessons learned.
Exactly.
It's a whole
So we're trying to figure out how to get the information out. I mean, we generate stuff and we can't get it through the system because of the legal process. No, Ed, you're out of order. You're out of order.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I can't, in other words, speak about three
Okay.
issues.
I'm saying we have a process, we generate stuff, we're trying to figure out how to get the information out. We can't, we have to go through process with legal review, and then it goes through committees and subcommittees, and the drone thing is still going to the safety committee in June, and then it'll go to council, so they haven't even seen it yet. So we've done stuff, but it hasn't gotten
But the
out.
point is, it's not on our desk, it's on theirs.
It's on their
It's
desk.
on their desk, we have leverage to get it off their desk.
Okay, Juan.
So I like that we're having this discussion before we go into the work plan discussion, and I think that actions speak louder than words, and I think that we recognize that when we began this term, and we were looking to create product to take actions. And so, for example, tonight we could have heard the concerns about fireworks and done nothing, and reported to the council in the chair's report. We heard a great presentation about illegal fireworks. So I don't know that I'm in favor of communication to the council as much as communication regarding actions and products that we produce. And so I think that they're looking for value. We all show up to help add value. And as we review the work plan, we should be very aware of where we're going to add value. And if we're not going to add value, will, a lot of us probably could add value in a way different than listening to a presentation. So just let's I think focus on how can we create product. We've done a great job this year, and let's just keep it going.
So that's one reason for actually writing a letter on fireworks, to get something out to express our. Okay, public comment.
Jackie.
Oh.
And I think that this is exactly the point that I wanted to make. Right before you go into your work plan, I wanted to remind you all that it's not just making product and just making communication. This is a policy-making body. You can advance policy, you can advance your ideas. This is your work plan. What you want to see the council discuss, you put it on the work plan. And as Councilmember Rocha is your liaison, we will continue to make sure that happens and we are making your interest heard. So it's, like you said, adding value. So don't forget, you can make policy, initiate policy here.
Okay, I do want to get onto the work plan, but.
This is work plan.
Okay, well, there's still public comment on this part here, so Ed, you don't want to talk on this? You want to talk on something
A
else?
specific work plan item.
Okay.